Friends, before we dive into today's terrifying story, let me share something interesting with you. Almost 80% of the people who watch our videos enjoy them, but haven't subscribed yet. So, if you're one of those 80%, it'll just take a second. Hit that subscribe button below so you'll never miss our chilling tale. Every night, Elias walked through this cemetery alone, never knowing what waited in the fog. He knew every grave, every path, and every broken stone until one night, he discovered a grave he had never seen before. It belonged to Margaret Vale, who had died in 1947. The next morning, Elias returned to check on the mysterious grave, but when he reached row 7, the grave was gone. Then he found it several rows away from where he left it. There were no footprints around it, and no signs that anyone had moved it. Even the grass beneath the stone was completely undisturbed. That night, Elias decided to document exactly where the grave stood. He measured the distance between the grave and the cemetery gate. Then he marked its exact position carefully on his map. But the following morning, the grave had moved again. This time, it was much closer to the cemetery entrance. That was when Elias stopped believing this was just a prank. He searched through the cemetery's oldest burial records, and beside Margaret's name, he discovered a terrifying note. Decades earlier, someone had reported the exact same thing. An old photograph showed Margaret's grave near the cemetery gate. It was following the same path, always moving toward the exit. That night, Elias watched the grave from a safe distance. Then he noticed strange markings carved beside the cemetery gate. The symbols seemed to form a trail leading beyond the cemetery walls. Following them, Elias discovered a rusted metal box buried underground.
There you
Inside
are.
were old photographs,
Now let's see what is
cemetery
inside.
keys, and forgotten records. One photograph showed Margaret's grave, decades before Elias arrived. Another document explained why the grave kept moving. But its final sentence contained a warning
recorded by the
meant
parish
for
sexton
whoever found
that
it.
Mrs.
The grave wasn't trying to leave the cemetery. That night, Margaret's grave finally reached the entrance. Then, without warning, the cemetery gate opened by itself. Beyond it, a dark figure stood silently in the fog. It looked like the figure was waiting for the grave to arrive. Then Elias noticed something freshly carved into the stone. The message was simple: "I'm not trying to leave." Elias finally understood what the grave had been doing. He stepped beyond the gate and found something buried beneath the road. It was another grave marker with another name. Elias looked back at Margaret's grave. It had moved again. Slowly, impossibly, it crossed beyond the cemetery gate. Then it stopped in the middle of the fog-covered road. And far in the distance, a single light appeared. By morning, Elias was gone. Only his flashlight remained, and Margaret's grave stood far down the road. Long pause, with someone waiting beside it.